All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope the summer is going well for everybody. And Laura, just so you know, it's telling me it's automatically recording, so we are good to go there. Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to do my best to monitor the chat here. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat and I will get those answered as we go along. I'm going to be looking on my second screen over here. And you know what? I'll probably just turn off my camera. Okay. So, my name is Courtney Fruoff. I'm one of the senior client account managers here at Practice Match. I will be talking to you guys about the September scaries and how we can prevent those and avoid those. But just a little bit about me. I've been at Practice Match 8 years now, I think. And I started out as a client support specialist. I was in the training department and I've been an account manager since 2019. Prior to Practice Match, I did work at a third-party firm recruiting physicians and APPs in the upper Midwest. Prior to that, I got my first big girl job as a nurse recruiter for Maxim Healthcare. So I was recruiting for pediatric patients who needed in-home care. I've been in the industry for quite a while. I know all about the September scaries. I know all about the Sunday scaries as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you guys all so much for being here. Quick pulse check. We will talk about what we're seeing this year, market trends, all of the data, as well as strategy and execution, which is very critical, especially in our industry. Let's go ahead and get started. When to call uncle, assessing your current strategy. First, want to talk about pipeline. We need to know what a pipeline is and do we have a pipeline? So our pipeline is essentially a group of candidates who we can dive into, or maybe a bucket of candidates, we can call them, who we've spoken to in the past, we've warmed them up. Maybe it wasn't the right time for that candidate, or maybe they just didn't meet your needs at that point in time, but you loved that candidate. They were absolutely wonderful. We can actually call them pipelined candidates. We can keep them in a pipeline, house them somewhere. I don't care where you guys house them, whether it's a practice match folder, an Excel, Workday, you name it. Just make sure you're housing them somewhere. So do you have a pipeline? Think about that. Are you guys kind of just discarding candidates who maybe were not the right fit at the exact right time? Or are you keeping them somewhere, reaching out to them every once in a while, checking in on them? Pipeline candidates are so important, really, in any recruitment industry, but especially ours, because it's so competitive. We need to make sure, one, that we're housing these candidates somewhere and that we're developing a follow-up process for our pipeline candidates. I know the account managers here talk to you guys all the time about a follow-up process for cold candidates, prospective candidates, but we need a follow-up process for our pipeline candidates. It's going to look a little bit different. These can also include your silver medalists. So again, maybe we talked to Dr. Smith last year and they didn't meet all of our needs. For whatever reason. But you absolutely love the candidate, keep them somewhere because with a little more experience under their belt or maybe a different position, maybe that person will be the right fit in a year or so. These can also be our previous applicants. Again, maybe they weren't the best fit last year. They might be a better fit this year. So we need to remember, remember we have these candidates and develop some sort of follow-up process. Your account manager or myself, we can talk to you in a little more detail about following up with them, as it will look different. With your pipeline candidates, you might reach out to them every 4 to 6 months just to say, hey, how's your job search going? Or hey, how's your family? How's your dog? Things like that. Just because you never know when it could potentially be the right time for that candidate. Benchmark data. If you guys don't have your own internal benchmark data, which we recommend tracking, Practice Match does, as well as APPR. We have data, we've been tracking candidates, we've been tracking market trends by specialty, region, locations. Again, APPR has all of that as well. But reach out to your CAM or myself anytime to talk more in depth about your specific needs or challenges. I've been hearing from a lot of you that primary care has been a challenge lately. Well, we can pull that data, we can narrow it down to your region or your specific city to see what's happening in your market. What does the pool look like? Who are your biggest competitors? Things like that. What are the best job titles? All the way down to those details. Another thing that I do recommend is getting with your account manager, or anytime I say CAM, that means client account manager here at Practice Match. They will go through a QBR with you, a quarterly business review, and they can actually pull your activity stats and compare that to your industry overall when it comes to those sourcing efforts. So we can see how you're doing in comparison to your industry overall, which is wonderful. So if you guys haven't had a QBR in a while, definitely reach out to your account manager. Sourcing patterns. We do want to track our ROI on multiple things. So our return on investment on our tools. So any sourcing tools, any type of recruitment tools you all are using, we want to track our ROI. But hint, hint, wink, wink, we do need to use our sourcing tools to get ROI out of them and to be able to track our activity. We can also track sourcing patterns when it comes to subject lines. What subject lines are getting the best read rates? What hyperlinks in your emails are getting the best click-through rates? How often is your team emailing? How often are they texting? Are they making phone calls? If so, how many are they making? Is there contact information? This is another thing you can track. Is there contact information that you have access to in your tools that your team hasn't used? So what I like to do with any of my tools that I use is see what contact information I have. Do I have an email? Do I have a phone number? Do I have an address? Well, think about all the things that you can do with those pieces of contact information. Call, text, email, postcard, or mailer. Make sure you're using what you have. That way you can better track your ROI. Oh, and geofencing, of course. Also, are we analyzing the seasons? We can take a look at when our candidates are graduating. So typically around June, their match days, holidays, time of days. You can track, you can see the best ROI, at least in Practice Match. I can say that for certain. We can take a look at your account and look and see what days, times you're getting the best traction when you're sending those texts and emails, and we will talk a little bit about that today as well. But in a nutshell, when we're looking at our sourcing patterns, number one, are you giving it all you've got? Do you need additional tactics, or do you need additional tools in your toolbox? Or do we need to actually begin sourcing? So let's think about that as well as we go through here. All right, I mentioned seasonality briefly. We at Practice Match do track seasonality. Now, I do want to say, despite the seasons for our candidates here, you can always be marketing. So these patterns are going to be different whether they're attending residents or fellows or if they're visa candidates. But something that you need to be doing that you can always be doing is marketing. Don't always have to send a hard recruitment email. Hi, Dr. Smith. We have an opening for primary care here in St. Louis. When are you free to discuss? Here's what it includes. It doesn't always have to look that way. You can actually send marketing emails. So, top 10 reasons to work here, a message from our CEO. We're building this new fabulous pediatric building, things like that to get their attention. Plan your marketing emails as well as your additional marketing efforts based on the seasons of the job seekers. Again, you can always be marketing, but you can also always be following up, guess what I'm going to say, with pipeline candidates. And also, it's never too early to begin relationships. So, those are huge tidbits in our industry because you guys know it is a tough industry. There's a physician shortage. So bullet point those or circle those if you're taking notes today. So let's talk a little bit about our residents and their job seeking patterns when it comes to the seasons. So they should they should have jobs lined up early on in the year due to graduation, usually in June. And that's why you're going to see that lull in activity in January through April with those residents. So there are orange line here on our chart. Now, it's a good time to focus early on in the year on those practicing physicians, those attending physicians, who they actually may be nearing the end of their current contract and looking for something new, or maybe a role that better suits their needs and their lifestyles. A lot of times when they sign their initial contract, when they're done with their education, they have a different priority than maybe those attending physicians who've been in the grind for a while. They want to make that money. I can't say I blame them. Been there, get it. So think about once they've been practicing for a little while, they are going to have different priorities. They're getting out of their contract. So we might want to, well, of course, focus our marketing efforts and recruitment efforts on those practicing physicians early on in the year. And we're going to switch up our messaging as well. Now, our residents, based on this chart, they're becoming more active in the fall, which this is crazy, but September is next month. So we are very close to the fall here. So now in the next few months, we need to make sure that we're aligning with those residency and fellowship completion timelines, reaching out to them, because now is when they really need to start thinking about what they're going to be doing when they're graduating early next year. J1 visa candidates, they're showing a peak in mid-year, which is possibly tied to visa application and recruitment deadlines. So again, reach out accordingly, get that calendar all set up. And I actually do recommend devising, and again, we can help with this, guys, devising a recruitment calendar based on the seasonality of our job seekers here. And I do have to quote the Birds. It's a song that they're a band. To everything, turn, 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 there is a season. So think about that as well. If you don't know the tune, I recommend putting it on. It's an oldie but a goodie. Days to fill. Days to fill in our industry, this is much different than any other industry due to the shortage of physicians, the many opportunities that those physicians have, well, providers as well, the competition, the relocation decisions, there are many factors into why days to fill is much different. But if you are worried about days to fill, which I know all of us are, please don't panic too much. It just appears to continue to increase year over year based on the data. which continues to reinforce the importance of building our pipeline, following up with our pipeline, continuous sourcing, and continuous marketing. So we do, of course, want to try to reduce our days to fill as much as possible. How can we do that? Again, build and maintain your pipeline. I don't know how many times I'm going to say pipeline today, but if anyone wants to keep track and make a game out of it, you're more than welcome. So build and maintain your pipeline, streamline your internal processes, which means we need to make sure our communication is there between our recruiters, our hiring managers, our credentialing teams, and of course, the candidates themselves. Make sure you're leveraging data and benchmarks. So track where your bottlenecks happen. So where are the issues in your hiring process? What's holding you back and taking you too long? For example, this could be something I've actually had clients tell me that the immigration process takes too long internally. There might not be anything you can do about that, but if it is, if your bottleneck is something that you can fix, try to do so. For instance, maybe you have a hiring manager that just is not responsive. They're not very timely to respond on a candidate. I have one client in Florida. They have a red, yellow, and green system, and I don't remember what they called it, but it's for their hiring managers, and it kind of creates a sense of urgency once they send a candidate over to the hiring manager and a decision needs to be made, they use this system. So they make the hiring manager fill out a little form and is this is this a red and it's high urgency? Is it yellow? It's just medium urgency. Or is it green? We have a couple years to get to it. So let's say hiring manager says, this is high urgency, it's red. We need this filled yesterday. Well, I send them over a candidate and they're taking too long to get back to me. I can show them what they filled out and say, hey, you said this was high urgency. We have a candidate on the hook there. The candidate's not going to wait forever. Can you please let me know what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, if you'd like to move forward? But that is something that you can do to put into play, reduce those days to fill, make sure your relationship and your communication is there with every party involved. Prioritize the candidate experience. This is huge. And what I've experienced and what I've learned through, well, personal experiences and my clients, communication is so important, along with transparency and honesty. I think that's something that I like to set from the get-go with a candidate is letting them know, hey, I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be honest with you throughout the entire process. And I appreciate that from you as well. And of course, consistent follow-ups. Other things that we can do to reduce days to fill. Pre-schedule interviews when possible. So if you can, start screening and scheduling the interviews as soon as possible. Use virtual interviews early to accelerate the decision making. If there are any other processes that you can start early, such as gathering references, maybe a background check, try to get that done sooner than later. And of course, tailor your offers based on the candidate needs. I know some of us have more wiggle room with our offers. Some of us do not, but think about where you do have wiggle room and where you can personalize your offer. Maybe you can switch up relocation support, loan repayment. Know what you're able to negotiate and know what absolutely cannot be negotiated. And if possible, send the candidate home with a boilerplate. So a boilerplate is basically an example of an agreement of the pieces that cannot be negotiated. Last but not least, use your sourcing tools and automation where possible. Toughest specialties to fill. This is sorted by days to fill. So you can see here where we're having some troubles most recently. So this was an AAPPR benchmarking report from this past October, so almost a year ago. And it makes sense based on what we're seeing. But most difficult specialty to fill is taking over 7.5 months on average, which it's just wild, absolutely wild. But how does this impact you guys? A lot of these specialties, well, in OBGYN, we know why it's been tough. There's been a lot of different government regulations passing things on to the state. It's definitely put some waves in the water. But any physician or provider specialty, you're going to have a smaller, at least with these subspecialties, you're going to have a smaller candidate pool. There's a ton of competition. Everybody needs an OB-GYN. Everybody's looking for the same thing. So this means we need to start our searches well in advance of anticipated needs. I recognize that's not always possible just because sometimes your leadership says, oh, here's something we need. Maybe a physician just up and quits, or maybe they didn't even know what they needed at the time. And I understand that. But if you know we're going to need an OBGYN in a couple of years, it is not too early to start sourcing and recruiting. Believe me that. Build your relationships as early as possible, even if it's something you hear through the grapevine. Oh, we're going to be needing 100 more PC physicians in a couple years, but you don't know the exact details of the opportunity. Build those relationships early. Start marketing as soon as you can. Use those niche marketing channels and be flexible with the job duties and the schedule. Incentivize where you can, pipeline those candidates where you can, and always be communicating. All right, and here are our top 20 specialties by days to fill. So which ones take the longest to get filled? And this, again, makes complete sense. But this is being recorded, so you guys can reference these slides later on. And these are great if your leadership is like, hey, Christy, why can't we get a psychologist? Or why can't we get an OB-GYN? Well, this is how long it takes to fill. And also, here's how many of these candidates exist nationwide. All right. So hopefully I'm not scaring you anymore than you already were. So let's talk about how we can actually prevent our September scaries and come off that ledge a little bit. All right, assessing our current strategy. The key word here is honestly, being honest. It is okay if your strategy needs some development or even creating. Let your account manager help you with this. We can help you get started. That is what we're here for. We're not just here to teach you how to use Practice Match. We are here to help strategize, coach on your plan. So be realistic, maybe do some self-reflecting and think, all right, I have a pretty good strategy, but maybe I need someone to look at it. Maybe I need an outsider's point of view to see where we could tweak some things. Or no, I need to totally get started with my strategy. Go ahead and give us a call. We would love to help. We do definitely need to plan. We need a sourcing plan, a marketing plan. We need to plan for events. These can be virtual or in person. We need to have some sort of residency outreach plan. Of course, following up with our pipeline, our prospective candidates, our cold candidates, and we even need a retention plan. That's a whole nother ball game there. All of these different pieces also need cadences and consistent follow-up. Leverage us, you guys. There are so many additional services here at Practice Match that can help you with your processes and help avoid the September scaries. For instance, we have a client sourcing staff here. We have a full marketing department in-house that does any and all type of marketing you can think of. And then we also have professional development and coaching. Again, reach out to your CAM if you need a refresher, need to find out, okay, what all does Practice Match actually offer? Reach out to your account manager. We also need to monitor our progress. Something big that I feel has been a challenge is prioritizing our needs. I know they are all the most important, and we want to fill them all as soon as possible, but we really need to think about our top 3 to 5 needs. So how do you prioritize? Are you looking at community need, money we're losing? Are we building a new building? Did somebody up and quit? Do we have a retirement coming? Things like that. So sit down and prioritize those needs. We also are looking at decisions and expectations. We need these to be realistic as well. And we can develop our expectations by looking at the data and those current benchmarks again. So this is also another challenge, making sure your leaders know what reality looks like. Sometimes I hear that, okay, we're gonna fill 100 physician positions in 1 month. Now that might be realistic for a nationwide health system, but if you are a long-term facility that wants to place 100 physicians in 1 month, let's take a look at the data, what's going on with geriatrics in the market, and take a look at those current benchmarks, and then set some realistic expectations. Also, are you monitoring your progress? And how are you monitoring? Are you using Excel? Are you using the Practice Match ATS applicant tracking system? We do have a free ATS and it's completely customizable. So you can track your sourcing activity, days to fill, time elapsed between your recruitment steps. You can see the actual pool of candidates that you're sourcing from, so how many actually exist out there, and all of those items that we need to be tracking. Now, remember, someone once said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So please monitor your results and switch it up if you're not getting the traction you need. So let's dive a little bit deeper. What can we do to overcome these September scaries? Well, we definitely want to deliver a seamless marketing and outreach strategy across multiple channels. That's what an omni-channel campaign is. We want this to be both online and offline. Emails, texts, social media, phone calls, mailers, websites, in-person events, residency, fellowships, medical school networking. Again, it's never too early to start that relationship building. It does take 6 to 12 touch points to get a passive candidate to engage with us. And think about those tougher to fill specialties, it might take more touch points because if everybody needs that one subspecialty, they're going to be seeing many different types of communication. So we need to make sure we get in all of our touch points. Also, we need to deliver customized messages and experiences to a large audience. I also realize we all don't have time to go one profile at a time and be able to personalize every single touch point for that candidate. I understand that. So we want to make sure that we have a decent sized audience and we want the candidates to feel like the message was created just for them. You can segment your outreach by specialty, location, career stage, interests, alma maters, and more. This is super interesting to me. What motivates each age group to make a change? Super, super interesting. I'm not going to read through all of these slides, but just take a look and see how it changes. We need to make sure we know our audience and we need to know what's important to them. And we need to market accordingly based on their priorities and what's important to them. Something that we do here is we do have a physician focus group, and you guys have access to those recordings as well. They're on your help page in Practice Match. And if you need help finding those, reach out to your account manager. But we ask them all kinds of things, including what's important to them when they're looking for an opportunity. But something you guys can do, consider surveying your current providers for this type of information as well. You guys have your own internal providers who are also a wealth of knowledge and who will help you not only recruit prospective candidates, but also help retain your current providers. So for instance, if you're going to send an email or leave a voicemail to a late 30-year-old, I resonate with this one. This is why I chose this example. Your messaging is going to include the compensation, of course, if it's good compensation. You're going to include the location that they're interested in, and you're going to talk about the healthy work-life balance. Um, so I've heard here and there that some folks don't want to say work-life balance anymore. And personally, I love it. I think it's so important to have that work-life balance. If I see work-life balance in a job, I'm going to think, okay, the schedule's got to be decent. If you absolutely don't want to say work-life balance, there are other ways to say it, like career-life alignment, well-rounded living. But for me, that's what I want. I want work-life balance. I want to be able to go to all the cross-country meets and all the track meets, um, and be able to maintain a healthy outlook on work and life. Again, check this out. You guys will have access to this after the webinar. So you'll be able to devise your sourcing and devise your messaging based on all of these slides here. Okay, big answers to big questions. When's the best time to reach candidates? This is specifically looking at emails, and it's just super interesting. It seems to change as the years go by. But guys, if there was a formula for all of this, we wouldn't be here. So, most recently, Friday, if you take a look at Friday, it's a really good day to send an email to our providers. And I kind of interpret it as maybe the candidates had a tough week at work for whatever reason, they're fed up by the end of the week. They may take your outreach as a sign that it's time to make a move. So super interesting here. Physicians also have some really weird hours, which can include on-call hours. Hospitalists are 7 on, 7 off, all kinds of different hours. But based on the slide, lunchtime to dinner time, as well as some early morning outreach, should be incorporated into your campaigns. And just so you guys know, if you don't want to be sending emails at those weird times, you can schedule emails in your practice match. And I'm sure you can do that in other tools as well. Best time to reach candidates when it comes to texting. Send your texts later in the week and around dinner time. I don't like to have my phone at the dinner table, but I do look at my phone once we sit on the couch after dinner. And remember, physicians are people too. They're just like you and me. They're looking at their phones. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of folks have their phones with them a majority of the time, and these are just the best days and times to reach them. We do have text match that allows you to send mass texts to candidates. If you guys don't have it, I absolutely recommend a demo with your account manager. Text match is the easiest thing to use. You get replies pretty instantly. And I like to think it's because most people have their phones nearby them all the time. I know when I get a text, I still get excited. Like I've had my phone for how many years now, and I still get excited when I get a text. But you can see that people are comfortable and happy to receive recruitment texts, at least a good majority of them. Are you still going to get a snarky reply here and there? Yes, but you're going to get that via email, a phone call. Like it's going to happen no matter which way you reach out. So texting is very acceptable these days. I will say I do not recommend using your personal cell for cold text messages because I've had clients who get reported as junk and then they just have a hard time with their phone. So another thing, make sure you're using text match, which is in practice match, or a texting service in which candidates have opted in to that texting service. Because if they have not opted in, you are at risk for being sued. So make sure you're doing this in a kosher way. Here we have 8 touch points alone on this slide. So take a look at these. We talk about these all the time, but put yourself in the candidate's shoes. Again, they're people too. Advertise on the top priorities of candidates. So again, go back to our physician focus group. Check out and see what their top priorities are, what they like to see, everything we've already talked about, and advertise on these 8 different tactics here. Advertise accordingly. So compensation, schedule, time off, benefits. Is this academic? Is there a partnership track? Is there tail coverage included? Think about what you would want to see if you were looking for an opportunity. If you're not sure what candidates really consider as their top priorities, again, listen to our physician focus group. It's on your practice match help page. Treat it just like oh goodness, a podcast. Lost my word there. Treat it like a podcast. Have it in the background, take some notes, but give that a listen. It's absolutely wonderful. And reach out to your CAM once again if you need help finding it. It's a question mark icon to the top right of your screen there. That's your help page. All right, back to that candidate pipeline. Our candidate pipeline chart, this is showing how the percentage of our sourced candidates who visited our websites or our opportunity postings, showing how that percentage, that number dwindles through the recruitment process. So once again, this is reinforcing the importance of a robust pipeline. That number will dwindle. I wish it didn't, but it does for multiple reasons. Maybe it's not the right candidate. Maybe we don't have the bandwidth to follow up with our applicants. Maybe the candidate went cold or ghosted. Multiple reasons this number dwindles, but again, make sure you have a robust pipeline. Make sure you're following up with your applicants. candidate matches and prospects. Follow up with them ASAP. And and I'm not kidding. Don't sit on it, especially if someone has applied or if you see a candidate match, that is a hot candidate. That means they either one really want to work for you, or if they're a candidate match, they're new. They've either updated their profile or we've recently interviewed them and they are hot off the press. So please, as soon as you can, reach out. Also, make sure you're communicating throughout the entire recruitment process. Think about, again, put yourself in their shoes. If someone all of a sudden stops chatting with you, whether it's, a current employer, a potential employer, or shoot, maybe someone that you're dating, and they all of a sudden stop talking to you, how does that make you feel? You're like, all right, well, they're no longer interested. So please continue to communicate throughout the entire recruitment process. Track your candidates and develop a process and calendar for outreach for your prospective candidates as well as your pipelined candidates. Where to start? How do we actually develop a recruitment plan? Well, of course, reach out to your client account manager to discuss the little dirty details. They can help you there, but we need to develop cadences, and create calendars to keep on track. So sourcing efforts, when I say sourcing efforts, I'm talking about going into your sourcing tools, finding the candidates, and reaching out to them, whether it's an email, text, phone call, whatever it might be. Sourcing efforts should always be coupled with marketing efforts. Marketing efforts really should be continuous. So when I'm talking about marketing, we're talking about digital marketing, those fun little ads that you see on your phone anytime you're on an application or website, or even streamlined television. So if you guys watch the streamlined television and it forces you to sit through an ad because it's a free movie or whatnot, that's digital marketing. You're going to see an ad. We can do those types of things too. Um, Mailers, so postcards, those snail mail pieces. Shoot, even a billboard. That's a type of marketing. Those should be continuous. Accompanying, sorry, excuse me. Those are accompanying your sourcing efforts and should be continuous. Additional recruitment tactics, such as attending career fairs, hosting career fairs, residency fellowship networking, lunch and learns. You guys can host your own lunch and learns, happy hours. Those are all additional touch points that make you not just a recruiter, but a resource as well. So strive to be the person that the candidates reach out to, not just for a job, but for big questions as well. Leverage your external resources. Again, we have so much here at Practice Match. Reach out to your account manager, but we have our client sourcing team. They're an extension of you. It's essentially like hiring your own sourcers. They complete all of the sourcing tasks, including cold calls. They complete the phone screens on your behalf, on behalf of your organization. So not Practice Match or any other organizations. So it's very, very different from a firm in that they call and they say, all right, I'm calling Dr. Smith. We have an opening at community health systems here in Arkansas, whatever it might be. They're not calling on behalf of Practice Match, and they're not going to be discussing any other opportunities with those candidates. They're just focused on your needs. And it's also wonderful because there are no placement fees and no a la carte fees. Professional development and coaching, we do have a new series of professional development courses on top of our provider recruitment bootcamp that's already existing. And this is designed for all healthcare recruitment workers. It's customized based on your role and experience level. We're also able to coach and assist with the development of your processes or even analyze your processes and help you tweak them where needed. Last but not least, we do have that full marketing department in-house at Practice Match, and they can assist with all things marketing that we've been talking about, such as digital marketing, mailers, residency networks. I've actually had them create lunch and learn didactic courses for one of my ENT clients, and it was all branded specifically for that client. They also created a practice path workbook specifically for that client as well. So, what's a practice path workbook? It's for those residents and fellows, and it covers everything that they need to know, but they don't learn when they're learning how to save our lives, such as how to search for a job, how to create a CV, what happens if I burn out, how do I negotiate my contract, all kinds of things, and that's all, again, very customizable. Here are just a few of our new courses that we're offering through professional development. Again, we do this one-on-one with you and your team, and we can customize it based on your needs. We can also take a look, like I said, if it's something that you need an outside viewpoint on, if you want us to take a look at a specific process and give you our analysis, we can definitely do that as well. All right, anytime I hear or see the word pivot, I just think of Friends with Ross and Chandler in the couch. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, definitely Google it. It's a pretty funny scene. But track your ROI, track your ROI on all of your sourcing tools. Pay attention to your outreach methods. So, what's getting the most response? What's doing well? What's not doing well? What email subject lines are getting the highest read rate and click through rate, etc. Be realistic with your goals and your expectations. Again, benchmarks will help you develop your goals and set your expectations. And make sure to pivot and change with the times. When recruitment first started, at least that I know of, we were using the phone book. We were using the phone book, calling up people based on the yellow pages. Then all of a sudden, this fancy thing called email came about, and that was all the rage. But there were people who didn't want to use it. Well, it was hot and it worked. Now, texting is one of the best ways to reach out, and we have all this digital marketing. So make sure you're pivoting, you're changing with the times as well. Enhancing your recruitment tools. Again, listen to our physician focus group recordings. If you haven't already, this is going to help you develop your job postings, your emails, your voicemails, any type of outreach. Track your time to fill and the time it takes to present the offer. So again, where are there hiccups? Is it a hiccup you can fix? If it's not a hiccup you can fix, are you properly communicating that to the candidate and your internal team to avoid losing that candidate? It is okay to say, "Hi, Dr. Candidate, Dr. So-and-so. It's going to take a few days to get your agreement over to you. You can expect it by this date. In the meantime, I will be reaching out every few days just to touch base." I would rather hear as a candidate that it's going to take a few days versus being ghosted. Always follow up. It is okay to set those expectations from the beginning with the candidate. Let them know how often you're going to be following up and decide on a different cadence together if needed. If I tell Dr. Smith I'm going to be following up every 3 days. And he says, no, Courtney Recruiter, I don't want to hear from you that often. Once a week is fine. Perfect. I'm going to put it on my calendar. And we need to know why candidates are uninterested. Are there any common denominators? Is it something you can change? So if, let's say, we don't have a robot, we don't have the Da Vinci for the OBGYNs, and that seems to be the reason why they're not interested. Can we afford a robot? Is that something we can buy? Is that something we can change? Things like that we need to look out for. We need to know. Similarly, find out what your current providers like about their job, about their role, about your organization, and market accordingly to prospective candidates. All right, some key takeaways. These are our takeaways in a nutshell, but again, assess your strategy, develop a plan, leverage your resources, and pivot and monitor progress as you go through all of your processes. Please, please, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to your client account manager or even myself if you would like assistance with any of the above, anything we've talked about today. Please give us a call. Or if you need to get started, if you just feel like we don't have a recruitment process or strategy, how do I even get started? Please give us a holler. We are so happy to help. But thank you all for coming today. Are there any questions? Awesome. Well, if there are no questions, I did remember, Laura. I remember to fill them in. We are doing some licensed email bundle savings and highlighted job specials. So again, please reach out last time, reach out to your client account manager regarding licensed email bundles and highlighted jobs. Thank you guys. Thanks everyone. I'm going to stick around for another minute if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.